and welcome back to the channel. Look who I've got. It's only Robin from Red Brick. I'm sure those of you who've seen the Red Brick videos and who've actually asked me to find out more about this wonderful gentleman sitting to my right, we've met up today and we're going to go out and we're going to look at some of the things that Robin's built. There are many and various and not what you expect, because this guy has ways of doing things that you probably haven't seen before, but you need to see. But before we go any further, my friend Jeff and I would like to make a little gift to young Robin here as a memento of today. I think he will understand what that means when he opens it.
Do I open this?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Yes, please do.
Oh, look. It's a mug. Oh, hang on.
This is a private joke between Jeff and Robin here.
Right, so this is the left-hand bit. Oh, God, I can tell you.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I've eaten at Denny's.
And survived.
In Dillon, Colorado.
Yeah.
And it was one of the miserable experiences in my life. I have never been anywhere that was less interested in serving me and appeared to be less excited about taking my money than Denny's in Dillon, Colorado.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Happy memories.
Okay.
Let's move on and see. So where are we going to go first, Robin? What do you think? You want to go to Paddington Farm first?
I think we should go out to Paddington Farm first, because Paddington Farm is where we went after we'd done the first job at the Red Brick.
Which is where we
And
met.
so we went up there and we took the scrap scheme up there, which then became a sort of scrap metal supermarket for selling old tools and sticking things together and making things out of bits and pieces. Our main job at Paddington Farm was to build a classroom out of second-hand recycled stuff, which we did. So we'll go up there and have a look at that. And also, 2 or 3 years ago, or was it 4 years ago? I don't know. I did a container home conversion pilot project, which Glastonbury Trust in the end, bless them, bought out and paid for the containers to go up to Paddington Farm as homes, and paid for us to put the drains and electrics and plumbing and stuff into them. And they are now homes, so we'll have a look at those as well.
Excellent. Well, there we go. That's the plan for some of the day, but there's more to come after that. I have a feeling this might have to go over 2 episodes. Who knows? It's an option. Anyway,
one episode of me is probably more than enough.
I'm sorry about the noise in the background. We're sitting next to a dentist. So we're going to move on now, and we'll see you at Paddington Farm.
What, a dentist with drills and things?
So we're going to start off here at the Argos building, isn't it?
It is.
Tell me about this.
Well, the story of it began 10 years ago. When we first started the Red Brick building project down here, it seemed to me pretty early on that the head office for the project shouldn't be up in town somewhere. It should be down here. So, well, you shouldn't be up there, you should be down here. But it's going to cost a bit of money to do. So if I can pay for it out of the scrap scheme, can I do it? And she said, well, if you can pay for it out of the scrap scheme, you can do whatever you like. So I thought, well, why don't we make something out of Argos catalogues?
And this building is actually constructed from Argos catalogues. You've used them like bricks and glued them together, haven't
Exactly. They were put together by children with PVA, which they're allowed to use. And there are 5,000 Argos, about 12 tons of Argos catalogues, I think, in here. And the roof's made out of old guttering, which I can show. And the windows are all free, which is good. They're just glass units that they chuck away. And the great advantage of them is that provided that you don't decide how big your windows are going to be until after you've got them, they're free.
Absolutely. So you design around your windows, effectively. It's
did-
about building with Lego. You've got a Lego window, you have to build your building around it.
Exactly, and you have to decide whether you need a oneer or a twoer or a threeer. Mind you, I have to say it was a bit difficult. We had to, Walton Press very kindly guillotined the catalogues for us where we needed half bricks to go round corners and make, and fit in round the windows.
They're about this deep.
Yeah, they weigh about 3 kilos each. They're incredibly heavy.
Is there anywhere where can you actually see the Argos catalogue?
Yeah.
Where can we actually see them?
They're here.
Oh, well, let's go and have a look at that then.
You need to go and have a look.
We need to go and have a look. Just because I'm sure there are some people who might think, nah, that's not built of catalogues. How can that be built of catalogues?
And then,
Well, we're going to show you that it is now. Look, if we walk round this way, and there you are, look, ladies and gentlemen.
all those are Argos catalogues, and I can tell you that if you get in here, hang on, I'm going to have to do it. What? Hang about.
Easy, Tiger, don't fall over.
Well, I'm not. No. If you get in here, you can see that it says Spring Summer 2011. Every one of those is an Argos catalogue which ran out, I think, at the end of June in 2011. Now, so that's what all these are, except that people got to hear about it, and so they started going to Argos and nicking the new catalogues and bringing those down. And so if you look up there in the corner, you can see some little red labels on catalogues, and those ones are the next one, which we weren't supposed to be using, because the whole point was that we used what they were throwing away.
And I can see here, I'm looking at the roof, you have mentioned this already, but if we look up here, this is genius.
They're simply bits of gutter, and they're second-hand gutter, and I got them from a plastics recycling firm in Bridgewater, who had them. They were manufacturing rejects, and I bought a truckload of them, and they're just stuck there over and up and over and up and over and up, so that they're just like French Provençal tiles, and they will keep the rain out forever, and they were free. So again, it's just making use of what you've got.
And the wood that you've used in the building, because there's a bit of wood in there.
Oh, there is a bit of wood. There is a bit of wood. The base is on old second-hand recycled pallets, so the building is just sitting on them. There's a bit of OSB or sterling board, which if you look inside, you can see, which is what the walls are stacked against. But actually, they're a whole brick thick, and after we'd built it, and because we've got old fridge packing in the roof as well, after we built it, somebody left the computer on a Friday when we went home, and we forgot about it. And when we came in on Monday, it was warm. It was amazing. So it is just like a little hay oven.
What you can do with a little bit of imagination and some stuff that people would normally put in landfill or throw away or do whatever with. I think it's incredible. And this building is now 10 years old?
It's now 10 years old. Yes, I think it opened in, I think it was August 2011. So it's over 10 years old now. And it would have survived almost indefinitely if we'd gone on putting another coat of Screwfix's best no-nonsense polyurethane on it every now and again. It would have been fine. We've got a fairly big overhang, and that does make a massive difference.
Less run down the wall.
Because you don't have to worry so much about the rain getting in. And when we look at, for example, the classroom up at Paddington Farm, that's got a veranda all around it, and that means that we almost don't have to worry about keeping the weather out of the walls at all. It's a very, very simple idea, and it makes a fantastic amount of difference to how you build things that you need to keep the weather out of in countries that get cold and wet.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the the Argos building. Now, this is just a sample of how Robin thinks outside the box when he builds something. So this will give you some idea of the wonders that are coming your way later in the film. So let's move on and let's go and see the next one.
Okay.
So we've arrived at Burtle Village Hall, which I think you're going to find out is the jewel in the crown of Robin's work that we're going to see today. It's a straw bale building, and it's performed its task of being a village hall now for how long, Robin?
It's been open for 12 years now.
12 years.
We started in 2008 and it opened on the 20th of June 2009, 15 months later. And I reckon that any project, if it takes much more than a year, you suffer from project fatigue. And because so many people in the village helped do this, that's what helped us to do it and keep the momentum up from the time we started.
So why does a village like Burtle decide one day, do you know what, we need a new village hall? Because there was a village hall here before, wasn't there?
Yes, the original village hall was a POW camp chicken type shed built by Snowes in Glastonbury, transported here on a truck and built by Sidney Wall and his brother in 1939, who then went off to fight the war.
So that obviously had come to the end of its life and they decided they wanted a new hall. So my question was going to be, why a straw bale? Why would a village like this suddenly think, you know, we need a straw bale hall?
Well, we didn't need a straw bale hall. What we needed was lots of money from the lottery, but they turned us down. So we were then faced with no village hall and no money. But we had some money, and there was a Sedgemoor and County Council, Somerset joint fund for building village halls, a matched fund of 70 grand. And we said that if they would keep that in for the next year, we could build it for that. And they said, oh, all right then, and kept the money in for another year. And so we set off with 70 grand from this joint fund, and we had to find another 70. Anyway, we cobbled together the money, And we built the whole thing for less than half what they'd quoted before they didn't give us the lottery money. And we delivered it on time, on budget, and opened for the 20th of June 2009.
Now, on time and on budget is a phrase you're going to hear quite often when we talk to Robin. But anyway, that's for another story. This is straw bale. So it was an economical reason that made you go for the straw. But interestingly, now it fits in with this whole new eco kind of friendly, recyclable thing that you've got going on. What can you tell me about straw halls or straw buildings? What's their history? Where do they come from?
Well, this one in fact is a bit of a cheat. The origin of straw bale building for homes is in America, and it's in Nebraska, and it's the result. Straw bale building is the child of an industrial revolution, because you can't get straw bales until you've got machines that will make them. So the original straw bale buildings were thrown up quickly and easily using machine-made straw bales to keep people alive during a hard winter in Nebraska.
Hiya. Okay, so then this is actually constructed. Is it structurally straw, or how does it work?
It's a bit of a cheat. It's a straw bale wrap. In other words, what we did was to put a conventional steel barn over the top of the whole village hall, and then wrap the village hall in straw bales.
So it's clad.
So it's clad, except that you can't put straw bales on the ground because they get soggy. So we had to put a foundation in. So we built a foundation round it, and then we filled that with 4,000 wine bottles as cavity wall insulation to put the straw bales on. Partly because they're not the best cavity wall insulation, but they are cheap, they do work, and everybody can bring one. So there are 4,000 wine bottles in the base.
So as you can see around us, ladies and gentlemen, Burtle isn't a huge village. How long did it take them to drink that many bottles of wine?
I can't tell you, except that in the end we had to say, please don't bring any. They were coming in from all over Somerset, and they've got messages and pictures in them. So you don't fling them out to sea, but if you look at the photographs of the project, which you can see
which
online,
we're looking at now, you can see them there.
You will be able to see the wine bottles, and they have got pictures and messages written largely by children, and there are little time capsule envelopes built into the straw bales as well, and they've got pictures and photos and all sorts of things that people put in, and we have no idea when we're going to dig them out.
So the whole building is a massive time capsule as well.
Yes, it is.
That's brilliant, absolutely. And I love the idea of it involving the school kids, because they're going to grow up thinking, oh, I got my message in there, and they walk past in 20 or 30 years' time, because this will last years, won't it? This has got a good lifespan, this building.
Yes, it will, and one of the virtues of making things, of your whole structural philosophy of making things being that it should be very cheap and very simple, means everyone can help. And the children who helped with the village hall will remember it all their lives.
Of course they will. It's an experience. It's a bit like people who helped build the Argos building. That day will be remembered by many people, won't it?
Yes, there are lots of kids who did that 10 years ago as well.
Now, moving on, I've just heard a new term this morning as we pulled up in the car, honesty window. Robin, tell me about the honesty window and show me where it is.
Yes, I don't know whether they're called honesty or truth windows.
Truth windows, my bad.
Truth windows. For some reason in America, buildings that were made with straw bales always had a little section in them which showed you that the building was a straw bale building. I don't know why, but we've got one here.
Shall we go and have a look?
Let's go and have a look. Well, down there, it says 1939, which is when the original hall was built. And in through that window there, you can see wine bottles. That's which are in the base. And that shows you how deep the wall is. And those are the straw bales. And these are the straw bale needles that I made. Those we made by using heat and a hammer to make needles to cut bales in half, because there are times when you need half bricks. So you have to cut straw bales in half, and those were the needles that we used for doing that. And then we needed to plaster it. And this is the plaster, which was put on largely by children, which is a mixture of clay from out on the peat moors and water and chopped up straw, and that's what made the plaster on it.
My understanding of straw building is you would have these and then you cover them like an adobe, which then goes hard, making like a hard wall. Is that a completely different technique to this, isn't it?
Yes, you're right. And this, we went away from that system of putting adobe on. This is quite a thin layer, and then there's another space, and then outside here is a wooden cladding, although this wooden cladding is a special Scandinavian timber which is cooked in an oven and which will last forever. Well, it'll last for 50 years without any maintenance at all, and has been key to protecting the outside of the building from the elements, and that's it really.
Well, the outside is amazing. Should we go and have a look at what's inside? After you.
After me, right.
Robin has arranged to have the keys today so that we can look inside the building. And I've got to say, when we came in here earlier, I was amazed. This is a beautiful building. You wouldn't know that you're in a building that hasn't been built conventionally.
No, you can see that, for example, shows you just how thick the walls are.
You are looking at
because
very
that's
thick wall.
the inside wall, and that's more or less all straw bale.
That's going to say it's about a straw well width, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the outside.
So is this plasterboard?
This is plasterboard. Yes, this is plasterboard because we did, to a certain extent, have to abide by building regulations.
Yes.
And building regulations state that we had to have 2 layers of plasterboard on the inside of the building in order to protect sheep in the field next door from being set fire to. Yes, right. I know it's ridiculous. Yes. It is ridiculous, but there you go. But people did worry about whether a straw bale building like this was a fire risk. And strangely enough, it isn't, because if you set fire to straw bales, they just go black. They don't actually catch fire. If you break them up and spread them out,
let the oxygen
they'll burn like a box of matches.
It's a triangle, isn't it? You need all the elements and you haven't got the air while they're bundled up in bales.
Absolutely. So it complied with all the fire regulations. And of course, because of the straw bales, it's also as warm as toast. Right,
let's move on, because the pièce de la résistance of this place, that almost sounded French, didn't it? It's the main hall. Let's go and have a look. After you, young man. Here's the entrance. Let's follow Robin in and look at this. Look at that lovely building. And you can hear the echo in here as well, because you've got some fairly hard walls, haven't you? Not a lot of soft furnishings. But
no, that's true. There's not a lot of fluffy cushions.
This whole floor is lovely.
But the floor is the original pine floor that got put in 1939. It's a tongued and grooved pine, and the floor was built on the hall was built on a brick plinth, so it's got subfloor ventilation right the way through, and that is now the same original floor from the original hall.
And it's beautiful, isn't it? And it's echoed by the wooden ceiling. I mean, it's plywood, but it's still wood, isn't it? I like being surrounded by wood.
The original roof would have been cedar shingles. But that got taken off, I think, in the 50s and replaced by asbestos.
Oh dear.
Yeah, yeah. And it also had an awful plasterboard ceiling as well. So when we built the barn over the top of the whole thing, we boarded the existing roof, and we took off all the asbestos from the roof, and the whole thing is insulated with sheep fleece, quite a lot of whom come from the fields next door.
I can see sheep in the distance. There's cows and sheep out there today, isn't there? We've got
Yeah.
the whole gamut. So this building, you mentioned there's somebody's name on the wall over there. His name was?
Mick Purdue was the husband of our village parish council clerk, Maureen Purdue, and Mick turned up about a fortnight after I started this because he felt sorry for me on my own, and then just pitched up every day from then on. And without Mick, the whole place would not have happened. And without that small team of people who were absolutely dedicated to getting this done, and the fact that we seemed to be able to pull half the village in if we needed help. They were just there to help us. And then on the day before we opened, which was the Friday the 19th of June 2009, we were on time, we were on budget, we'd done everything, and we were just out there with the dustpan and brush, and Mick didn't turn up. And on the way home that evening, I popped into his house just to check that he hadn't died without letting me know. And actually he looked awful. And it turned out that he was ill, and Maureen had taken him off down to the hospital. And he'd got pancreatic cancer, and before Christmas he died. And so that's part of the reason it's Mick's Corner. And that's part of the reason why the whole village was so important, and that Mick and that Ken and his dog Reggie, who came here and ate cake, are all important parts.
Who ate cake?
What
The
was
dog?
a village, yes.
My kind of dog, that. And there was somebody else, so one of the original, you were telling me one of the guys who built the original hall that this replaced was actually here for the opening, wasn't he?
Yes, Sidney Wall, who with his brother had built the hall that got transported here from Snowes. It was made by Snowes in Glastonbury and then brought down in sections on a truck, and they put it together in 1939 before they went off and joined the war. And Sidney came back whilst we were doing the renovation to have a look, and I think there are, again on the website, I'm sure there are pictures of Sidney Wall, who looks even older than me, when we'd done the hall, because it was a very long time.
Brilliant. Would you go have a quick look around the hall now? Just look at some pieces. I think Robin wants to show me into the loft space so we can see all the sheep coats going on up there. But I've got to say, I can understand why this is the jewel in your crown. This is an absolute piece of wonderful community-led architecture. I mean, it's not just the fact it's sustainable. It reused a lot of materials. It came into the lower cost. The important thing was the community wanted it, and the community built it. And they were lucky enough to have this gentleman here to have the vision to build something along these lines, which is really good. So let's move on that way.
But everybody says that the acoustics are very nice in here.
They're not too
and
bad.
I think as you'll see, the insulation in the roof partly contributes to that. It's partly because of the straw bales, because they're very good sound insulation.
They're dense, aren't they? Yeah.
Yes, they're very good sound insulation. And partly the sheet fleece in the loft. Let's go and have a look.
Oh, look at this. This loft is not a general access area. So Robin is now disappearing. Oh, look, there's a hatch. Right, let's go on up.
This was, there's nothing holding this.
The claim that this has many sheep pelts up here has just been substantiated.
There's about 1,500 sheep.
So if you see sheep in a field shivering, you know why. They've left their coats up
They
here.
should be in here in the warm.
I tell you what, you feel a warmth as you walk up here, don't you?
Yes. One of the things that we were told we had to worry about was moths.
Moth.
If we use sheep fleece in the roof, everybody said you'll get moths. So we rang up the straw bale building guru, Barbara Jones, and she said she didn't see any problem with using sheep fleece in the loft, except that you ought to wash it and then you should soak it in borax, and that would solve the problem. Well, the sheep farmers of Burtle said that the only thing heavier than a dead sheep was a wet dead sheep. So washing it wasn't really an option for us. And nobody was quite sure about the moths. So we used it anyway, on the basis that if we got caught, we got caught. And for 4 years, we were absolutely fine. And then suddenly we got moths. And I thought, Robin, you've now got your comeuppance, which serves you right. But we did always know that if necessary, we could pull it out. But actually, Sedgemoor District Council sent up their bugs and infestations man, and he said, no, that's all right. He said, no problem at all. What we'll do is we'll fumigate the roof, and then you buy a couple of those things that go bzz, bzz, those things
you get in a chip shop.
In a chip shop, zappers. And they cost about 30 quid a year to run, and that will solve your problem. And it did. So I didn't get my comeuppance after all.
Oh, that's good.
And we're snug as a bug.
Yes, because I mean, again, how many sheep coats?
About 1,500 sheep fleece. And sheep
That's
fleece...
a lot of woolly jumpers, isn't it?
And sheep fleece is extraordinary stuff. The first thing is that it's very warm, but it also keeps you cool in the summer.
Yes.
Because it evaporates in the summer and will cool the building down. And it passes all the fire regs because sheep fleece doesn't catch fire. It'll
smoulder.
It'll singe like you've burnt your hair, but it doesn't catch fire. So again, it's a recycled material at a time when sheep fleece was worth virtually nothing.
Really?
Which has done a fantastic job of insulating the building and complies with all the regulations.
Brilliant. Yet another example of thinking slightly outside the box when it comes to building construction, I guess. Because, I mean, using this, what we've got here as a standard farmyard building, I mean, you could go to anywhere, buy this and have it put up in your farmyard, couldn't you? It's nothing special. But what you actually build into underneath it, and the way you do that is what makes this building special and gives it longevity.
Yes, it was a very simple concept to say, look, why don't we just put a big barn over the whole thing, wrap it in straw bales, put some sheep fleece in the roof and decorate it. That'll do, won't it?
And it's done.
And there it is,
and
done.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen, it's done. So, we have now seen Argos catalogues. We have seen guttering made into roofs. We've made sheep and straw made in, well, not sheep, beg your pardon. We made sheep skins and straw made into a village hall. I wonder what the next building is going to be made of. Let's go and find out.
Let's go and find out.
Okay, so far we have seen Argos catalogues, we've seen sheep coats, we've seen straw, yeah, we've seen straw bales. What next? Well, how about a shipping container? That's right. Here we have 2 shipping containers that the genius on my right has converted into 2 dwellings. And luckily, we've been very kindly invited by the occupant of one of them to come and have a look at where he lives, courtesy of this man here. So let's go and have a look. What can you tell me about these, Robin?
Well, the two containers, converting containers to live in is probably not the best answer in the world, but we've got a problem at the moment and they're an answer. So that's what we did. We're trying to see whether we could make a shipping container into something you'd be happy to live in. Mm-hmm. And Jim is very happy to live in it, and actually Claire and I both would if we had to.
Mm-hmm. Should we go and have a look? Because I know Jim wants to get off and do some other things, so let's go and have a look, and then he can do what he's got to do and we can go off, and because there's something else here at Paddington Farm, which is where we stood now, which we want to show you this afternoon before the light goes. So let's go and have a look with Jim at his house, and then we'll carry on there.
Okay, so this is terribly good. Jim, can I turn some lights on? Yeah. Can I just turn lights on everywhere?
I've just got to say, ladies and gentlemen, we've walked in here already, and already I've forgotten I'm in a container. It doesn't feel like a container, does it?
It doesn't, does it?
It doesn't even feel like a caravan, it feels like a building. It feels like an apartment. I love the hidden lighting up there. It makes me want to go home and do that myself. Brilliant. What a lovely place to live.
Isn't it? Isn't it great?
So what is between the outside wall and the inside wall here, insulation wise? Because obviously it's metal.
Right.
So these things are going to get really, really hot in the summer, aren't they? So in the winter, metal's going to lose the heat. So there must be something going on in this wall space.
It's a spray foam insulation and plasterboard. And that's it, basically.
Oh, that is spraying stuff on the
So
spray.
if we had a choice, we'd use a lot more insulation, and we wouldn't use a container. But for something which can work as a simple home, this complies with the simplest home regs. But it's not as efficient as it could be.
Having said that, I mean, what I'm looking at here is basically construction for a modern narrowboat. You've got a steel hull, they spray it with expanding foam and then lag it inside with wood. This is a very similar, well, the technology's similar because you're living in a metal box, aren't you, effectively?
Yes, and this is, of course, a lot wider than a narrowboat. I mean, a narrowboat is 6'10.5" wide.
It is, but the construction with the same problems because you're in a metal tube that you don't want to get too hot, and you don't want to get too cold. And look, ladies and gentlemen, there's an alpaca out there. Is that an alpaca, or is it one of those other things that looks like an alpaca? Yeah, they are alpacas. What an amazing place to live. All this on your doorstep. So there we go. I mean, that kitchen, that stainless steel kitchen, is to die for. That one-piece unit, I love it.
That stainless steel kitchen, they are made in Germany. That particular one, as I said, is stainless steel. It's got a sink and drainer. It's got a microwave. It's got a fridge. And hot water and a
extraction. It's got a fan. It's all in one unit, isn't it?
And they're imported from Germany at about 1,500 quid.
Really?
Delivered.
That's reasonable.
Delivered, which I think is terrific. Yes, I think it's really good. So when we did the conversions, I was very pleased with those.
And of course, when you're working in a container, you've got a finite space. Everything has to, like on a narrowboat, everything has to fit and everything has to have at least one purpose, if not two, and etc, etc, etc. This is brilliant.
And Jim built that.
That's nice.
Yes, which is like a little breakfast bar, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
So through here, you've got storage space, which again is just trying to make the best use that you can of the space that you've got. And I know.
Oh, look at
A
that.
bathroom and shower,
Wow.
which is also a wet room.
I like wet rooms.
And the wet room, the shower base came in one piece
Good gracious.
from China,
Yeah.
and again is absolutely, you could, I mean, neither Jim nor I wants to go and stand in there with a hose.
But you could.
And with a bit of luck, it would all fall out the bottom.
That's amazing.
So, and basically it works, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's very, very simple. And then through in here is a bedroom.
That's amazing.
So
And a squeeze box.
I have to tell you that this is actually bigger than some flatlets are being sold as in London now.
I could live in one of these happily
I
tomorrow
know.
morning.
I
I'd move
know.
tomorrow morning into one of these. Absolutely. This is brilliant.
It surprised you, hasn't it?
It's,
And
I'm
Claire
blown
said-
away. I'm
Claire
blown
said
away.
exactly the same thing, that she said, well, it doesn't feel it, and when I had Sedgemoor District Council come, they came and said that this being in here felt more solid than some of the new estates they went into.
Those things they build now are made
Yeah.
of tissue paper. So I've got to ask, the important question, and it's the question that everybody's going to want to know,
Well,
how much to build one of these?
part of the reason it still looks so immaculate is down to Jim. But actually, it's a very simple conversion. There's nothing very complicated in it. And basically it works. Said you built that, didn't you? As the little
So
island.
what I'm trying to get at is how much would this cost to build? Because I mean everything now is built around cost. You could theoretically build a small estate with 30 of these
Yes.
and house, I don't know if you get a family in here, but you certainly get couples in here. So how much would one of these cost to build? And then we can compare that to the cost of one of these nasty houses they're building now.
We aimed to deliver this ready to live in with its kitchen and its bathroom and its plumbing and its electrics and everything, and sitting on a site for 30 grand. Now 30 grand would mean that you could afford to pay rent for it, which is less than the local housing allowance. And if you bought it on a mortgage, it would cost you less than 50 quid a month to buy it on a mortgage. So it's not the answer to the housing crisis, but it's a contribution to it.
I would move into one of these tomorrow morning without a hesitation, releasing a house to because I'm in social housing. I'll release my house back onto the market and come and live in one of these tomorrow.
And honestly, I know that you're not saying that because you're holding a camera.
I'm saying that because I'm trying to think of ways. How can I kick him out and move in? This is fantastic, Robin.
Yeah, the beauty of it is, well, you can pick them up and put them anywhere and look at the view.
Exactly, because these started off in Bridgewater.
Yes.
So they weren't actually built here. They were built 15 miles north of us.
No, we built when we started the project. The problem was to find somewhere to do it. And Travis Perkins in Bridgewater very kindly said that we could use the back end of their yard on the old Bristol Road in
I know it. Yeah.
in Bridgewater, and so it was there until they moved to their new place. At which point we moved the whole project down to Canalside in Bridgewater, and then we finished them there. And Glastonbury Trust very kindly bought up the rest of the project and paid for them to come up here, and for me and Jim and a couple of others to plumb them in, and we got the electrics in and everything. whenever it was. You can reckon that if you're going to move one of these, it's going to cost you 500 quid every time you move it. That's just to pick it up and put it down again.
So what is, how legally, if I lived in a caravan, I'd have to move out for so many weeks a year. There's that thing where you can't live in a caravan all year round, or I think some of these you know, these look like small houses. You're not allowed to live in them all year round. Like, how does that affect this, or does that not affect it?
It comes under roughly the same regulations as statics, and I'm not sure what the rules are in terms of how many.
And I think it depends on where the land is as well.
Yeah, but
and the local council. Yeah.
Here I don't think there's any problem. In fact, Glastonbury Trust gave these to Paddington Farm Trust on the basis that they wouldn't be let as Airbnbs or let as holiday homes. But it was important that the people were in these, that it was a home, and that's what they are. So it turns out, Gabriel, that after 40 years of banging my head against a brick wall over affordable housing, 2 people have got homes that didn't have them before. That is my total contribution to the housing
you've housed
crisis.
2 people.
But it's 2 better than
Ladies and gentlemen,
the square root
that is
of
a
nothing.
legacy, however you look at it. Because not only that, you've actually set a precedent. So now somebody else can come along and maybe build another half a dozen of these at another time. Because it's proved to work. It's proved to be cost effective. It's proved to be and you said the rude word, a really nice place to live. Why not build another half a dozen?
Yeah.
I think
I think
Glastonbury Council, you're green. Come on, have a think about this one. Definitely, this is it. This is green and conservancy and sustainability and all those things that we all pay lip service to in action and working. And that's a good thing to see, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to go and see something else now, which is going to blow you away, because like I say, we've done Argos catalogues, we've done sheep, we've done hay, we've done containers. Now Robin's going to go and show us something else. But Jim, thanks, buddy. Really appreciate you letting us in here.
And thanks to Robin anyway, because without Robin, it wouldn't be possible.
And he says, I've only helped 2. If you're one of those 2 people, this guy walks on water. Absolutely. So here we are at our final destination for today. So we've seen catalogues, we've seen sheep, we've seen hay, we've seen containers. Robin, what's this one made of behind me?
We're looking at 2 main things. We're looking at a building sitting on old tyres, made out of recycled pallets, with a roof which is slated with vinyl flooring offcuts.
Okay. And we're joined today by Verity, who's from Paddington Farm here. So what exactly do you use this building for?
Yeah, lots of different things, I'd say. And also we have a spring education project. They do forest schools, and in the winter they tend to come, and it's a bit cold for the for the kids to be out in the woods in the winter, so they come and use it when it's a bit cold in the winter time. So yeah, it's a really good space used by lots of different groups. When it was Children's Festival in the summer, there was a sensory room in here, I believe, for children who had profound and multiple disabilities, and so it was a nice safe space for those young people to be in during the festival time.
We are going to come back because Paddington Farm does some absolutely amazing work with different groups of people, and I'm going to come back and tell that story because it's one that not a lot of people in Glastonbury actually know about. But for now, Robin, what is the age of this building? How long ago did you build it?
I think it was 2015-16, that sort of time. I know that we had to get the roof ready to be put on. We built the roof like the Argos office. We built the roof on the ground because that's always, I think, the safest place to build a roof, on the ground, because then you can't fall off it.
No, that's very true.
And he came and put the roof up. So it was 2015-16. All the details of how it was built by all of us, and help whenever I needed it, is on the project thing, which is on the website.
Well, we're going to, and we'll put a link to that in the description below, so you can go and look at this, because there's so much to look at. It's absolutely fascinating. I'm looking here, up at this roof here. This, I recognise that from somewhere. What's that been taken from?
Oh, I can tell you that this veranda roof.
It's a veranda roof.
The veranda roof is made out of manufactured rejects of a plastic fencing system, and it's made out of 50% cellulose and 50% recycled plastic. And it's strong enough to walk on, and what it does is to give us a veranda all the way round the whole building, which serves the enormously useful purpose of keeping the rain off the walls, which means that you can build something like this in a very, very simple way without having to worry too much about protecting from the weather, because the veranda does that for you. So, for example, all those windows up there, all in that end gable, they were all free. They all had been bunged in skips. And again, it's one of those examples of where, if you get your glass first, you build a gable there to fit it, and then you cut up bits of plastic to go in the difficult bits. And the wall in here, all those windows were free. They were recycled from castle, I don't know, improvements to the gentry in Bridgewater, who gave us all the window units, which are lovely from the inside because you can see out through them. But the walls here are just made out of 2 layers of recycled pallets full of straw.
So again, the question that I'm going to ask you is, why the decision to use this construction method on this site?
Well, I suppose that a classroom was something which the farm felt that it needed. And what we needed to do was to think of a very, very simple, easy and cheap way in which we could build something that would be a classroom. And pallets seemed to be like a good thing to do.
And sustainable too.
And it's sustainable. In fact, most of it's sustainable. But it is a very simple and cheap construction. The whole thing costs less than 15 grand.
I noticed there's a few windows here not yet painted. Will that happen? Is this an ongoing thing?
I think that's it. No, I think that's it. I don't know why those didn't get done.
And there's one there as
I
well.
think that's because those are the ones with the view out over the Mendips and
Perhaps
over to Wells.
Perhaps that's it.
I think that's probably why.
Yes. I think that, I have a horrible feeling that was Michelle. That was Tanya. That was Tina. I don't know who the Four Feathers
They're
were.
one of the user groups.
Yes.
I just want to briefly talk to you about the construction method. So what was the main construction method? Because you say it's built of pallets, isn't it?
Right.
So how many pallets have gone into this? Where are they?
Right.
Can you still see evidence of pallets?
Yes, you
like
can
you
see
see
all
the
the
straw and the
pallets.
catalogue.
I can tell you with my hands how you do it. You get 2 pallets and you put them like a sandwich. And then you get 2 more pallets and you put them like a sandwich, and then you put a strip of OSB sterling board, which is that looks as if it's made out of planings either side.
yes.
And you've got yourself then one section.
And would you stuff that with some sort of padding or wool?
And you stuff it with chopped up straw, and you squash it in.
So this has
and
got-
that's the insulation.
This has got straw in it, but it's chopped up and not in a bale.
Yes,
It's just used as an insulation material.
yes. But it's chopped up and stuffed in there, and it has stuff called Enviromesh on it. Now the Enviromesh is an agricultural, it's a market garden mesh to keep codling moth out of things, which Rob uses on the garden over there, and which I scrounged because apart from anything else, it keeps mice out, because mice don't like eating through it because it gets stuck in their teeth.
Oh, wow.
So round here, that's all stuffed full of straw, and the panels are still stuffed full of straw, and up there is stuffed full of straw, and the roof sections are stuffed full of straw, all of which we got more or less, all of which we got for nothing, because now I think about it, we got all the straw from Dave Banwell. Dave Banwell is Tessa Munt's partner, and Dave is a local farmer,
And one of our trustees.
but
And one of your
also,
trustees,
but
yeah.
also a trustee, and he's really helpful, and has put a lot of help in whenever he's needed. So Dave is a good thing as well. In fact, almost everything up here is a good thing.
So the kids, when they come in here, because some of these aren't from this area, they're in a classroom like this, built in a way they may not have seen before, with a view like that, what do they think of it?
Well, they love it. Of course they do. You know, it's amazing. It's unique. It's a really beautiful space.
It is gorgeous, isn't it?
And it feels nice, doesn't it? I mean, I know I built it, but it feels nice to me. It feels, it doesn't feel cold, it doesn't feel alien, it doesn't feel foreign, it doesn't feel as though it's pushing you out. It feels as though you're in it and you're safe. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
ladies and
I think
gentlemen,
those are important things.
we have seen many things today. We have seen different ways of building buildings, I guess you could say, that you might not have seen before. We've seen ways of reusing things that would have been thrown away. We've seen people living in buildings which were containers. Now people are living in them. Robin here is a human whirlwind. I'm sure he won't mind you telling you he's 80 years old, and yet this man is still going on like there's no tomorrow.
I have to check every now and
I have to
again.
check
I
again,
am
yeah.
still here.
But listen, I want to thank everybody for coming along for this video. Please do comment in the description below. If there's anything you want to say or any comments you want to send to Robin, I'll make sure he gets them and sees them. But for now, we're going to go now, and I'm going to go home. I'm going to put this video together, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you to Paddington Farm for inviting us up here, and thank you to everybody who's let us into their buildings. The people at the village hall there, who arranged for the key and everything, that has made this video possible. And again, thanks to Jeff Kellison, who's there in the background. But anyway, that's it for now. We'll see you on the next one. Don't know where it'll be, don't know what we'll be doing, but we will be there, and we will see you there too. So don't forget, like, subscribe, and if you can, hit the Patreon as well. Moving along, that's it for today. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.